Happy autumn. The air is crisp. The leaves are changing colors. And while the spooky season of Halloween has come and gone, we still get to know about some fantastical book recs, author content, and creative tips. This is going to be a trip as we fall into some new fiction. Hey, welcome back to The Right Way, where we talk book recs, author interviews, and creative writing tips. I'm your host, Garrett K. Jones, and this is the full episode for the month of November. I've got some great content in this month's episode, but before we jump into it, here's some information that I think that you need to be aware of. First, the newest video in my Finding Fiction series is up on Patreon for supporters on the novelist tier. This video essay does a deep dive into the Halo franchise. I got to watching the live action series when it dropped last month on Netflix, and that gave me the impetus for this. If you want to wait, it will be available here on YouTube on November 30th, but don't be afraid to get an early start. Starting November 15th, I'm going to have a sale going on both for my bookstore and as well as my merch store. Now, if you go to the links down below and use the code HOLIDAY, you'll get 15% off your total purchase. So if you want to get a stack of signed books, or if you want to get a couple of really cool shirts, then you'll be able to save a little bit of money this holiday season. This code will remain active until December 26th, so get your orders in as soon as possible. Lastly, the big event that I have coming up is the Moonlit Revelry Ball, held on February 7th at the Visalia Convention Center in Visalia, California. This event will be equal parts fantasy author convention and fancy formal dinner and dance. As far as I'm aware, tickets are still available, but they are going fast, so you better hurry up and get yours. Last month, Ashley Greathouse kicked off Season 8 by providing her top list of book obsessions. This month, I'm inviting back previously interviewed Tommy-Lee Sexton to return and provide his book recommendations. I got to interview Tommy back in March, just before jumping into Author Awareness April. So please join me in welcoming him back to the show.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Tommy-Lee Sexton. I am the author of this book here, Eye of Destiny, but we are not talking about this book. I am giving you a top 10 list of some great books that I have enjoyed either a long time ago or recently, and these are in no particular order, so here we go. Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. This is a page-turner, and I at least did not see the ending coming at all. Fantastic and a great classic mystery. Animorphs: The Invasion. I started this series when I was in 3rd grade. Classic kid literature, sci-fi, a lot of cool different themes. And I mean, getting the powers to turn into animals to fight, evil aliens that take over your brain. Hey, sounds like a power I'd like. The Westing Game is a really engaging mystery that I read for the first time this year. I really couldn't put it down. I know my wife, I think she read it in 7th grade, but it is a kind of mystery, kind of inheritance. Hey, you get to inherit this if you solve this mystery, kind of a deal. Really cool. Great twists. I recently finished Random Man by A.R. Maxwell. If you're a superhero fan, this is a great, fun read that I hope you will enjoy as well. If you are a fan of Stargate SG-1 or Stargate Atlantis, you're going to want to check out The Elements of Time, The Winds of Change by Sam Paisley. I really enjoyed reading Sam's book. Out of the Silent Planet, if I was going to rank this one actually would be my number one. C.S. Lewis is known for the Narnia series, but he's less known for his space trilogy. But this is a really engaging work Really a classic sci-fi story, underrated in my opinion, and really cool to see, especially how space travel was imagined before we landed on the moon, because it was written, I think, in 1938. But great themes, great story, and continues into two other books as well. House of Dark Shadows is great if you like a little bit of creepy and time travel. Basically, the story revolves around this house where there are rooms where if you go in those rooms and you put on some of the stuff in those rooms, another door you can open and travel to another time period. But you know what? Things are not quite what they seem, and things are not as safe as they seem either. This is the one by Robert Liparulo. Going back to classics, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You can't beat the classics, especially when it's something like Robert Louis Stevenson's classic. Next book is the first book in the Alex Rider series by Anthony Horowitz. Alex Rider is a teen super spy in Britain who is taking on all of the crazy bad guys with all of his gadgets and tech, supported by MI5 or MI6. I can't remember which one, but one of those organizations. Really great story and very enjoyable. And then finally, Superman Dawnbreaker by Matt Della Pena. Great take on the Clark Kent story. This is where he learns for the first time that he is an alien from another planet. It's cool reading kind of what he goes through in learning that revelation. And that is the end of my top 10 list. If you give any of these a read, I would love to hear what you thought of it. I hope you have a great Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, depending on when you are listening or watching this.
So I connected with this month's interviewee during that 24-hour block of time when I got overwhelmed by signups for this segment. Leslie is one of the fantasy authors who is going to be featured at the Moonlit Revelry Ball in February, so please join me in welcoming the lovely Leslie A. Lee.
All right, Leslie, thank you for joining me. Welcome to the show. Tell me about what it is that you write.
Thank you for having me. So I am an author who has done pretty much everything. I started with historical fiction, transferred into kind of like contemporary romance, and then was dared by a friend to try my hand at fantasy or sci-fi. I chose fantasy. And so I'm currently in the process of writing a 4-part series entitled Legends of the Veil.
So how did you get into writing? Was this something that you've always wanted to do, or like did you wake up one morning and you're like, I want to write a book?
Yeah, I mean, kind of both. When I was really little, my mom would read to me, like the classics. So like Charlotte's Web, Chronicles of Narnia, pretty much anything by C.S. Lewis or E.B. White. And because she was reading to me and my imagination was on overdrive, I decided that I wanted to create my own stories. But I started wanting to do that before I could even write. So my mom would give me paper, I would draw the pictures, and then I would tell her what I wanted to say, and she would write down the words. And that kind of morphed into me wanting to enter like competitions with my writing in elementary school. And then by the time I was a senior in high school when I wrote my first kind of like full-length official book. And when I got my copies in the mail, that was when I was hooked. I'm like, this is what I want to do with my life.
What are your inspirations as a writer?
I am a hardcore, diehard fan of like classic fantasy writers. So, I mean, obviously C.S. Lewis, grew up with him. Tolkien is like my hero. Partly, I think one of the reasons I decided to do fantasy as opposed to sci-fi was like my knowledge of Tolkien and growing up reading The Lord of the Rings over and over again. There's a lot of kind of language usage in the Legends of the Veil, going back, researching names, what they mean. Mm-hmm. Most of my names in Legends of the Veil come from like ancient Germanic or Nordic. Gaelic, and that's kind of like a homage to Tolkien and the way that he used language. Aside from fantasy writers, I love Leon Uris. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he wrote massive, huge novels. Trinity was one of them. Trinity was my favorite. And then the classic romantics. Jane Austen is a top favorite. I love her writing, and the Bronte sisters. So I kind of just draw from across the board.
What has been one of the hardest parts or the biggest challenges that you've encountered in your writing career?
I think definitely kind of just the whole publishing process. It's really easy for me as a writer to put things on a page or on a computer, but to get it out, to go through that whole process has just kind of continued to be a challenge. I always knew I wanted to kind of do the self-publish route, unless, somebody big wants to pick me up. That would be fine too. But yeah, just the kind of like jumping through all the hoops, dealing with editors. I've had some really good ones. I've had some really bad ones. The last book has been a nightmare to get out for just whatever reason. So yeah, you just kind of get frustrated because you feel at times that the people who are responsible for putting your book out there maybe don't value it the same way that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your baby. It's something that's very precious to you, and you want it to be respected and treated with the same care that you've put into writing. And so when that doesn't happen, you have to learn to control your temper and not anger the people that are gonna, give you exposure.
If you had any advice or tips for other would-be authors out there, what would you tell them, Leslie?
I think the biggest thing is just to continue to be committed to your craft and believe in yourself. I know for me, I know I'm good at what I do, but I still continue to struggle with like motivating myself to continue. It's really hard when, you think you've got something big and then there's like no response, or somebody critiques you and you take it personally. But ultimately, I love what I do. And I know that there are a lot of writers out there that love their craft and
Mm-hmm.
love creating and coming up with these stories for people to read. And so you have to continue to believe and commit and believe that like at some point you will get your break.
So we're coming up to the end of the interview, Leslie. How can people connect with you and how can they get copies of your work?
Yeah, so I am currently, all three of my books are currently on barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, and Walmart online. Not in stores yet. We're working on that, but walmart.com, you can buy them online. And then I also have a website. It's just my name. It's www.leslieann with an E, lee.com. My books are available on there as well. And then if you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on Instagram at Lepie21, Lepie 21. I'm on TikTok at Greyhaven Bound. And I am on Facebook. Just look up my name and you'll find me.
Well, Leslie, thank you for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
So last month I shared with you examples of how I adapted the Doulahan of Irish folklore and the Wendigo of Algonquin tradition, as well as providing tips for writing these kinds of creatures into your own work. This month we're tackling two more creatures of folklore, namely we are looking at the Will-o-the-Wisps and Dragons. My favorite. A will-o-the-wisp is more or less an atmospheric ghost, most often seen at night or in dark overgrown forests, marshes, bogs, or swamps. Folklore depicts them as mischievous spirits or the souls of the dead. Its name is derived from the word wisp, meaning a bundle of straw or paper, and will, a mischievous spirit. The name literally translates the will of the torch, which is important to remember that their presence often looks like a flame dancing in the air. Probably one of the most famous depictions I've seen in modern times is in the Disney animated film Brave, in which Princess Meredith follows a trail set for her by a Will-o-the-Wisp, leading her to the old witch's hut and throughout her adventure in reconciling with her overbearing mother.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
The folklore suggests these lights are supernatural entities such as fairies or the dead leading travelers astray, and serving as a warning to stick to safe paths and roads. Other beliefs associate them with buried treasure or the work of devils. Of course, if that isn't clear-cut enough for you, science, that pesky thing that we're told to blindly trust, offers a different explanation. Like with any myth or folklore, the stories are used to describe something natural that people just hadn't come to fully understand yet. In this case, the wills or spirits aren't spirits at all, but ignited jets of flammable gases, primarily methane trapped in marshy areas.
Pumbaa, with you, everything's gas.
These gases can spontaneously ignite and create a flickering flame. Now, I've personally never used anything like this in my stories, but now that I understand them a bit better, I'd love to incorporate them. But here's one way that I've seen it used in recent memory: Halo. It's a bit of a stretch, but if you go with me on this, throughout the core Halo games, Cortana is Master Chief's guide on the Halo arrays. She lights his paths, she opens doors. It's a game mechanic the developers use to give a sense of direction when the player seems lost. Probably the best example I've seen from the franchise is in Halo 3 ODST, where the superintendent AI literally gets your attention by remotely triggering info screens, door locks, flashing police sirens, and other lighting effects to draw the rookie's attention to the path the player needs to take. Now let's turn our attention to our second topic: dragons. Specifically Dragon Days. This is a Celtic celebration often observed during the autumnal equinox, which we just observed back in mid to late September. Dragons were viewed by the Celts as symbols of earth energy, fire, and regeneration, and they would invoke dragons to carry fire into the coming winter. And given the fact that at Halloween time, it's often when we see dark riders, such as last month's Dullahan, emerge from the spirit realms, the Celts wanted to take on that fierce bravery of dragons to fight against such darkness and evil. In modern times, Dragon Day is officially held in Glastonbury every January 16th, where they teach about the cultural and symbolic significance of dragons and reflect on themes like courage, transformation, and the cycles of nature. I've incorporated dragons throughout my writing, and like the Celts, who saw them as symbols of bravery against evil, that is how I've applied them. One of the main characters from my first book, The Heirs of Menenias, and the central protagonist of the follow-up, The Destiny of Dragons, is a ranger named Gavin who was bonded with a small dragon named Nex. Gavin grew up in an orphanage, and Nex had been given to him in the form of a statue. On Gavin's 7th birthday, the spell on Nex disappears, and the two are bonded as brohimistas, or spirit brothers. So here are some tips for writing in these kinds of elements. Tip number 1. If you're looking to use a Will-o-the-Wisp, you can either go the mystical supernatural route and stick with tradition, or you can do like I mentioned in the Halo games and have it be something completely technological. Adapt the legend accordingly to the genre of the story you're trying to tell. You can make it as overt or as subtle as you need, and sometimes the more subtle it is, the more fun you can have with it. One way that this legend is used without seeming technological or supernatural is in the form of a treasure map. Treasure maps often pave the way with clues and hints and puzzles, helping guide characters to whatever it is that they're looking for. Tip number 2. I want to focus less on dragons than on the actual celebration. The reason I say this is because you don't necessarily have to use the dragon iconography for whatever celebration that you're highlighting in your book or story. You can use any kind of primal entity that you'd like, but take into consideration symbolism represented by whatever it is a celebration focuses on, and perhaps come up with some rituals and traditions that the people celebrating reenact every year that the event is observed. Lastly, tip number 3. Try to find a way to incorporate both the celebration and the Will-o-the-Wisp guide as a tethered pair. If you're doing something with a supernatural element like urban fantasy or dark fantasy or even horror, tie that spirit to the celebration itself. Or you can simply have that spirit become active either during the celebration or because of it. I hope these tips help you in your writing phases, and I'll be back next month with more. Hey, thanks for watching. Do you like this content? Well, if so, please hit like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications on new videos just like this one. A big thank you to my guests, Tommy-Lee Sexton and Leslie A. Lee. Now, if you'd like to connect with any of the guests on the show, or if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, my merch store, or on Cash App, you can find all those links and contact info down in the video description. Don't forget to tune in next Saturday for the next live stream of Season 8, where I will be reading another short story from my recently released anthology, Midnight Playground. I'll see you then, and keep on writing the right way.